How you guys doing? Right, that's good. So my name is Aadhithya Ramesh, and I'm a sophomore at Independence High School, and I'm primarily going to be talking about the formation of autism and how it's related to cytokines in the gut microbiome. And I researched this topic over the summer, and I'm currently trying to get it published. And I also shadowed a doctor who also oversaw this research. So, autism is a developmental disorder, and it hinders the ways of learning, and it can cause repetitiveness and weird behaviors, and it's exponentially increasing. And around 1 in 36 children have autism. Does anyone's family anyone have autism in their family? No. All right. So one thing I saw that was a major factor in creating autism is cytokines, which are pretty much just small proteins that are secreted by white blood cells and immune cells, and they are used to regulate the immune system, and they trigger inflammation, or they can not they can tone down inflammation. And for ASD, they mainly trigger inflammation, and we are primarily focusing on a cytokine called IL-6, which is also seen during pregnancy, and it's elevated to help with the needs during pregnancy, fetal development and stuff like that. And it's already elevated during pregnancy, so if a mother does something like smoking or just have a bad diet or be obese, it's gonna be more elevated, and that's gonna increase the amount, the chances of getting autism, and it could due to the CNS, which is the central nervous system, and it's being disrupted. The development of the central nervous system is being disrupted, and yeah, that happens. And when they're after they're born, they are often it stays high. The cytokines levels stay high, and there's inflammation in many areas, including the brain, and we also see inflammation in the gut, which is affecting the gut microbiome. And the gut microbiome is basically a digestive tract. There's microorganisms in your digestive tract, which are basically bacteria, viruses, and fungi, and it plays a role in your brain because there's something called the enteric nervous system, which is the ENS, and it helps with the gut-brain axis, which is a bidirectional network between your brain and your gut, and the microbiota talk to the brain with the neurotransmitters and via this gut-brain axis. So when something that occurs during that can occur is called microbiome dysbiosis, and this is just an imbalance in the gut microbiome. And this is basically when some microbiota are way more increased and some are way decreased, and this can cause autism due to disrupted neurotransmitters and a flawed gut-brain axis. And this disruption could occur because of multiple things, including diet, antibiotics, or after birth. If you're a C-section baby, you're not going to get the microbiota that come from the vagina. So that also occurs. I saw also the cytokines and the microbiome are related, because cytokines, when you're inducing inflammation, that inflammation supports the well-being of some microbiota and also harms some microbiota, which induces dysbiosis. And dysbiosis also induces the cytokines because, dysbiosis is disrupting the entire gut, which is causing inflammation. So my first solution is to get the babies, the ratio of the microbiota in the gut tested for the babies. So we can see we compare that to the average ratio of microbiota in a normal baby, and we can see to the bottom right here, we can see the graph of a normal children in these amounts of the gut microbiota composition in these amount of in the ages. And for example, if there's this microbiota Clostridium, which is often seen high in children with ASD, and it can be killed using vancomycin. And if there's some microbiota that's too low, like actinobacteria, which is also like another microbiota that is found actually little in people with ASD, and we can just apply that with the people with in ASD. And another thing we could do is just we could slow down the amount of cytokines. So cytokines are needed for pregnancy and stuff, but if the levels are too high, we should provide immunosuppressants, which could include like prednisone and Actemra. And we can check these like the cytokine levels with blood test, and if it's abnormally high, especially IL-6, and we can also see IL-1 beta, and we provide it based on that. So all in all, I think that we can prevent multiple cases of ASD from this, because ASD, well, these are two factors, but there's still many more factors. But we can, I say we can lower down the amount of cases of ASD if we just if we prevented dysbiosis and the overabundance of cytokines. And yeah, thank you. Any questions?
Aadhithya, I don't know. So what triggered you to start this off?
My brother actually has autism, so I wanted to get to know more about the people with autism and stuff like that. And I also, during my time for shadowing, I got to see a lot of kids with autism, and I got to diagnose some of them. So I of course was just genuinely curious, what is causing this? Why is it becoming higher and higher? Why is it more common?
I don't know, so I'm asking. Within the spectrum, this child probably is going towards becoming dyspraxic, becoming dysgraphic, or is an ASP, potential ASP. Is it going down to that level of detecting where the spectrum disorder is, or you say it's in the spectrum?
What do you mean?
So if you do those tests, right, for IL-6 and all.
Yeah.
So when you're doing that test, does it help you determine if where in the spectrum does this child is heading in terms of motor skills, maybe in terms of whatever, right? Could be ADD, could be ADHD.
It could be doing that, but the primary test, like the reason for these tests, is to prevent like ASD from even coming. Because once it sets in, it's really hard to take away. Because like my brother, he's a low functioning ASD person, and I know he's probably not going to come out. He's going to be autistic forever. So the point of these tests is to prevent people from getting ASD and stuff like that.
Okay.
The question is, once you identify that there is a risk of ASD coming, can you do something about it to make them either cope with it better or prevent it from, how do you prevent it from happening?
Yeah.
They have to take something to adjust the gut-brain axis, or what do they have to do?
Yeah, so the gut microbiome, if microbiome dysbiosis occurs, we're going to give them like the microbiota they need. So for example, if they're lacking actinobacteria, we're going to provide them with more actinobacteria. And if there's Clostridium, we lower the amount of Clostridium with specific antibiotics targeting that microbiota, which would prevent dysbiosis.
So the kid can then cope with autism, can be cured, but you can...
Yeah, it'll be better, because I saw a study. So a woman had like a child with autism, and his Clostridium level was way high, and they gave him vancomycin, and his symptoms drastically reduced.
The two solutions you mentioned and all the tests, will that be administered as part of what happens right now as to additive tests, or do you require a separate or a new device for that?
No. So for the gut microbiome, we provide them with fecal tests. We test their poop and see if like the microbiota in there. And for cytokines, we just check their blood and can see the amount of cytokines and dependence. Any questions?
I know we're at time, so I'm fascinated by the study of microbiomes. I've been spending a lot of time on this. With this research, I know it was very focused on autism. Do you see extensions of this to people beyond, autistic kind of tendencies, but just to the general population?
There's like multiple people. I saw there was a lot of people with like gastrointestinal issues. I saw a lot of that, and it goes like far because your gut is like the scientists are calling it a second brain, so it's very important.
So your solutions could have extensions even beyond, the target, which is the autistic population.
Yes.
So, I know we're running out of time, but I like it when young people take up real bigger problems and try to solve them. Then build social media websites. So really appreciate the thinking and the thought behind this, because that is a serious problem, right? We all know it. There's so many tests done, so many have been banned. So I'm sure you're working on a plan saying, I need to turn this into a viable business move. Is that your intention?
I'm not thinking about business. I just want to help people.
Okay, so when you want to go help people, you need to create maybe even a non-profit. You need to be compliant with certain things. You need certain, right? So, is there someone helping you with that?
Well, not yet, but
Okay.
we'll figure it out.
Okay, but good luck with that journey. Yeah.
Thank you, Aadhithya. The first is always the difficult part, and you did great. So thank you again. Now I call upon Saanvi Vipin. Her ID is 2502. Just give a moment for the judges to grade. You need more time.
Okay. Is this working? Good morning, everyone. I appreciate your presence today as we go into the world of forensic psychology. As we stand in a new era of technology, and as we talked about before, like these technological innovations are like applying to or extending beyond and applying to all careers now. And with the help of these cutting-edge advancements in fields such as genomics, digital forensic, and artificial intelligence, forensic is set to revolutionize the methodologies we employ in crime detection and investigation. In this presentation, we will explore the world of possibilities that forensic science will lead us to, and the potential challenges in their interrogation and the ethical perplexities they may present. So let us start the presentation. So today we'll be focusing on 3 possible ways that forensic psychology can advance in the future. So virtual reality, neuroscience advancements, and artificial intelligence. Now these are only 3 ways out of the billion of possibilities that that can happen in forensic psychology. Okay, so the first one is virtual reality. So virtual reality is still in its early stages, and as VR technology advances, its potential for enhancing forensic investigations will expand significantly. So one of the most crucial improvements will come faster and more efficient data will transfer. Unlike video games, which can function with Bluetooth, forensic scientists generate a substantial amount of data necessitating the use of cables that can often restrict movement and hinder the technology's full potential. As data transfer systems continue to evolve, VR will become more fluid and accessible, enhancing its practical application for forensics. So, 2 advancement pathways in VR are a shift towards AR and haptic sensors and tactile gloves. So, stands for augmented reality, which while while virtual reality creates an entirely stimulated environment, AR enhances real life settings with virtual information. So it could allow students to explore real crime scenes while interacting with digital data, such as observing how a suspect might react or understanding psychological behaviors in various situations. And then haptic sensors and tactile gloves is like they're tools that could enable students to feel objects and evidence in a virtual crime scene, making the experience much more lifelike. So forensic psychologists focus on the subtle details like the weight of objects and like how the texture. And so haptic sensors and tactile gloves, adding them to VR will help students get that more real life experience in virtual reality when they're doing their training. And it'll help students and it'll improve their ability to analyze and interpret it. So right now, VR is like VR forensic psychology. Like the person who presented before that was one of his business startups. That's how like they're beginning to like think about that right now. And at this moment, VR primarily focuses on teaching basic skills, so like how to navigate crime scene or identify crucial evidence. And the goal is to enable students not just to see and walk through a crime scene, but to physically engage with evidence and feel its texture, weight, and nuances through the sensory feedback. So we're not just talking about seeing and doing something. The technology is evolving into something that will allow them to experience the actual feeling and touch and in a way that was like that could only be like. That was once the stuff of science fiction. Okay, as we go further into the presentation, let's think about technology is not only enhancing the way we train investigators, but also revolutionizing the tools that we use in criminal investigations. So VR has already begun transforming how we prepare forensics professionals, but there's another game-changing technology on the horizon: artificial intelligence. So now we will explore how AI is transforming criminal profiling investigations from using NLP, natural language processing, to detect deception in interviews and objection in crime scene footage. So natural language processing. So natural language processing is like the way that people like witness statements, case reports, and suspect interviews, and it uncovers patterns in that reveal deception or guilt when during interrogations, and so this can provide deep insights into suspects' emotional state, adding layers into the investigation. So. However, the integration of AI in criminal investigations requires a collaborative effort, combining the expertise of law enforcement, data scientists, psychologists, and ethics. So when we're working with this, we will need people from the actual human experience to help us with it, because it's basically like just like a natural language processing like goes into your brain and it senses like deception and guilt. So as we continue into exploring how technology is reshaping forensic psychology and science, this was all artificial intelligence, but now we're going to go into neuroscience advancements. So there's 4 ways that neuroscience advancements they can scan brain activity patterns. So the first one is fMRI and EEG. So fMRI and EEG highlights changes in brain regions associated with fear, anxiety, and emotional responses. And EEG measures electric activity in the brain. So it can so like providing like a more immediate and portable way to absorb an individual's neural responses during questioning. So EEG helps detect brainwave patterns. Okay, so my time's up. So my thesis is virtual reality will help with figuring out what happened at the crime scenes. Neuroscience will help with distinguishing confessions, and artificial intelligence will help with criminal profiling. Thank you for listening to my work.
A very interesting area, and I think there's a lot of opportunities. So, in your research, have you looked at how far the industry has already leveraged the natural language processing in kind of going deeper into forensic psychology?
So right now they've started on working on the brain activity patterns and stuff in natural language processing, but like obviously like they can't like they don't have like the they haven't like they don't have like the ethics to like or that like to like go into your brain and like search for the things, but they're like working on it in the future, and so and it's like natural language processing is existing.
So, from your research and what you infer so far, is it more from the application standpoint that the industry needs to advance, or is it more from the device standpoint? So, where does the advancement needs to happen to accomplish it?
So, like, wait, can you repeat the question?
So, is it application capability that needs to come into the industry, or is it a whole device mechanism that needs to improve to ensure that NLP contributes to all these different areas?
I think it's the whole. Well, I mean, I think it's application because like they like all the stuff I've talked about right now. They're already like working on it. They just need like the ethics and like they need like how like they need to like understand like how it works and like what like it like how it could possibly damage. So they're already like working on it. So I think it's like the application.
Just curious, if we were to take a lie detector test today, you know what the equipment looks like. Can you project if you did go ahead with your approach, what would it look like? Would it be a EEG thing on the head, virtual reality headset? What would the lie detector look like?
The lie detector would be like it'd probably be like so it'd be like a rotating like thing, and it scans your brain. So we're not going to put it like actually on our head. It's just scanning your brain from the outside. So it like goes into you can see like the interior of your brain. Virtual reality is actually for like cops to like visualize the actual like crime scene. That's not like part of the lie detector, like criminal justice. Yeah.
Hey, Saanvi. Saanvi, it's just out of curiosity, when someone comes up with an idea for a business or whatever, curious as to what triggered you to think about forensic psychology, and you mentioned about virtual reality and AI being mixed into it, and tell us something more about what triggered this thought, what inspired you to go this way.
Well, I was at first gonna do like the Elon Musk mentioned like the Neuralink, which is similar to like the NLP and the stuff, but then like last minute I was like, wait, like how can that concept, like obviously I can't do that because Elon Musk already invented it, but how can that apply to forensic psychology, like when you're like lie detecting and stuff, and like that could really like help like for like criminal the criminal justice system. So that's how I like came to that. And I wanted to do psychology anyway, so it's like okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Saanvi. Okay, Gaurav. Okay, next is Nikitha, Ramesh, and Ishita Menon. It's a teamwork. 2503. And timekeepers, like, make sure when you show the yellow, just wait until they see you so that they know that the time's 5 minutes or something.
Hello everyone, my name is Nikitha Ramesh.
And I'm Ishita Menon. We're both ninth graders at Prosper High School, and we're so excited to share our innovative idea with you, the AllerTrack Patch, a real-time allergy detection solution that could change the way people with food allergies live.
Okay, let's start with some facts. Did you know that 51% of adults and 42% of children in the US have one or more food allergies?
And get this, 90% of those food allergies are caused by common household foods, like peanuts, dairy, wheat, shellfish, and soy. Even more alarming, food allergy cases have increased by 50% since the 1990s.
This rise makes it more important than ever to develop smarter real-time solutions.
Here's what we'll cover today. We'll start by taking a deep dive into why we created our idea, explain the science behind food allergies, introduce the AllerTrack patch, show you how it works, compare it to existing solutions, explain how to use it, and talk about its benefits and our future goals. Finally, we will go over the app itself and pricing plans.
So our idea started with something really personal. My younger brother, he's sitting right back there, he has had severe food allergies since he was 5 months old, and we've been constantly going in and out of the ER multiple times.
Seeing how unpredictable and dangerous allergies can be, we wanted to create something that could combat this and help people live more confidently. Hence, the AllerTrack was born.
So what are food allergies? Food allergies occur when the immune system mistakenly reacts to proteins in certain foods. This reaction can cause mild symptoms such as rashes or itching or hives, but it can also lead to severe life-threatening anaphylaxis, which is like when your throat closes up and you can't breathe.
And it's not just food proteins. Some people react to food chemicals too, like sulfites in dried fruits or MSGs in processed snacks. These are hard to avoid, but even harder to predict. So, how does our patch help? Well, it all starts with timing. Allergens can take from 1 to 4 hours to fully enter the bloodstream. But an allergic reaction can often start within minutes.
Our solution is a compact, pain-free microneedle patch that detects rising levels of immunoglobulin E, which is an antibody that is responsible for allergic reactions.
The patch monitors these levels in real time and sends alerts to a connected smartphone app, giving users an early warning before symptoms even start.
Over time, it can also personalize alerts by helping users track patterns in their own triggers and reactions. So here's the science behind it. The microneedles in the patch will be infused with anti-IgE antibodies. When IgE levels rise, which is signaling that a symptom will soon occur, these antibodies will bind onto the IgE in the bloodstream and trigger a color change reaction, which is by using enzymes such as horseradish peroxidase.
This color change reaction stays on the patch. It is then picked up by the app and turned into a simple visual alert for the user. Everything in the patch is biocompatible and it stays on the surface, so nothing harmful ever enters the user's body.
Our prototype, which is over there, it's the circular 3D printed model in the middle. It's sleek, compact, and user-friendly. It's circular with an off-white surface, smooth plastic edges, and a pull-off tab for easy application and removal.
Inside, the microneedles are infused with antibodies. This design is both modern and easy to use, even for children. Let's compare the AllerTrack patch to other allergy solutions.
So the EpiPen is probably the most effective allergy medication today. However, it's used after a reaction starts and the user is already affected by the symptoms. It's similar with allergy medications. They're incredibly effective, but they treat symptoms, not prevent them.
Our patch, however, is different. It alerts users before the symptom even appeared, helping them act early, possibly avoiding emergencies altogether. Now, application instructions for our AllerTrack patch is super easy. First, we peel off the backing of the patch. Next, we place the microneedle side face down on your upper arm. Be sure to press firmly and gently. Finally, make sure it's connected to the app.
And just like that, you're protected and connected. So let's take a quick look at pricing. You can see it on our trifold on the left side. Individual patches, we plan to have them priced around maybe $70, which is much more affordable than EpiPens, which can cost from $300 to $700. And for regular users, we can offer like a 3-pack for $100 and 6-pack for $200.
We also have a $40 per month subscription plan that includes 4 patches.
Moving on to the app, it's a huge part of what makes AllerTrack so powerful. It can monitor your IgE levels in real time, track allergy history, and even send instant alerts.
With a clean, easy-to-use design, the app makes allergy management both simple and proactive, helping users stay safe and in control wherever they are.
So now let's talk about what makes this patch stand out. First, application is effortless and pain-free, like we already talked about.
It connects directly to your phone, has a compact design, and is actually cheaper than an EpiPen at only $70 per patch, ensuring both profit and easy accessibility for our intended audience.
Plus, it's based on advanced microneedle technology that's both high-tech and user-friendly.
We're also looking towards the future. Our goals include reducing the need for frequent reapplication and enhancing sensor accuracy. We also aim to design a patch to be able to detect a wider range of allergens, like environmental or airborne allergens.
One day, it could possibly even link to emergency systems or notify caregivers automatically if a reaction is detected.
In summary, the AllerTrack patch offers a smarter, safer way to manage food allergies by monitoring IgE levels in real time and alerting users before symptoms begin.
It combines science, design, and technology to provide early warnings and even possibly save lives.
The patch may be small, but the impact could be huge.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'd love to answer any questions or hear your feedback.
Very good presentation. So one question I have is, this thing detects the possibility of reaction coming, but a EpiPen does something more than that. Actually, once you have the onset of anaphylaxis, you can do something about it. You can reduce it, adrenaline comes in and cures it. Does your patch do anything similar rather than detecting the stuff?
So the purpose of our patch is to alert the user that symptoms might occur before they actually take a toll on your body. So as we discussed in our future plans, there could be possible future advancements where after the symptoms are detected, before they occur, we could have the allergy medications such as epinephrine inside the actual patch so that it can be injected by itself.
So for now, if the patch alerts me, I still need to carry an EpiPen with me.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you know the total market you're going after in terms of overall opportunity, the total addressable market or the revenue size you can go to? Do you have an idea?
Could you repeat the question, please?
What is the total market, the size of market you're going after in terms of the revenue opportunity?
So we're going for a global market right now because our product is actually it can be used almost everywhere. There's so many cases of people with any food allergy, like peanut allergies. Everyone sees signs in school where it's please restrict peanut uses at this table because people have allergies here. So our product is something that can be used literally anywhere in the world. And if we work with the right marketing agencies and use the right tools, we'll be able to kickstart this product in a global level very well.
I have a two-part question. One is, did you work with anybody in the industry research to kind of come up with a solution?
With this was
entirely
ourselves, yes.
Okay. And have you actually tested this with anybody to see how well it works as sort of an initial study before you kind of before?
Currently, we don't have the right funding to test this on anyone yet because we haven't like fully launched it. Our prototype over there, we 3D printed that. We made it on like Fusion and 3D printed it. But for us to be able to go on a global market and actually start testing on test subjects, then we would need the proper amount of funding, and we haven't received that yet.
So that makes sense. So how do you know that this solution is actually going to work to detect? Have you seen any tangible indication of that?
So we kind of based it off of, like an insulin patch.
Yeah.
We were inspired by that. So we know that insulin patches are a huge success and they use similar microneedle technology. So as she said, we don't have the proper funding to fully test our item yet, but with the appropriate amount of research, we are confident that our product will be successful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you might know about this. There are sprays that are being approved by FDA as recently as probably 2 years ago, where the spray is inhaled by the user, and there are some results that come out of it. I don't know enough about it. I think one of them is called Neffy. Did you all do any homework on that sprays? They're trying to compete with patches and EpiPens. No, that's fine. That's fine. How long have you been working on this in terms, and what does your prototype actually do? So let's say if I have gluten allergy and I eat a wheat-based meal, and what does the prototype right now do?
So our prototype will alert you that if you have like a gluten allergy and if you like eat gluten, our prototype will tell you that you've eaten gluten and there could be an allergic reaction coming. So it gives you enough time to like go to the hospital or grab an EpiPen. Where some people, like for kids, it's not as big of a deal because they have parents with them at all times. But if you're like on your own and if you're living alone and you don't have anyone around to help you, our patch will alert you that there is something coming instead of just leaving you to like be on your own.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikitha and Ishita. As someone with shellfish and shrimp allergy, I hope you find those into the market soon. I want to taste the genuine Saanvi as soon as possible. So next I have Shreya Sanil. Shreya Sanil, the ID is 2504.
Hello. Okay. Can everyone hear me? So how is everyone today? Good. Okay. Well, that's good to know. I'd like to introduce myself first. Hi, my name is Shreya Sanil. I'm a sophomore in high school, and I'll be presenting to you my product, Sleepwise, a customized sleep solution. By the raise of hands, how many of you have felt like you've actually gotten sleep this past week? Like a good 8 hours of sleep? Yeah, I see like 3-4 hands up. Well, I know I haven't. Sleep deprivation has become extremely concerning, and 1 out of 3 adults have been affected by it. This number has continued to grow and has become a concerning problem that is growing as we speak. The problem at hand I aim to address is sleep deprivation. Common causes of sleep deprivation include addiction to digital platforms. With the rise of consumerism, many people turn to technology for answers. Whether that be the latest news or the latest fashion trend, we have grown to become extremely dependent on it, causing an addiction. Additionally, frequent travel across time zone, whether that be a spring break trip to Hawaii or where you travel downtown for a corporate event, time zone differences result in jet lag, and the effects of jet lag can last up to 1 week.
This in turn comes off as a byproduct of inconsistent sleep environments when you travel too often. For example, sleeping at an uncomfortable hotel mattress one night to sleeping at an airport lounge the other. Inconsistent sleep environments heavily affect your sleep cycles. Detrimental effects of sleep deprivation hinder your mental and cognitive abilities, resulting in the loss of productivity. Your body and your brain aren't well rested, so they aren't being able to perform at the best of their ability. This in turn causes mental distress. Both your body and your brain are working overtime without a sufficient rest period. Previous solutions attempting to address this problem, but in turn only identifying it, include smartwatches and wearables. However, the data provided by smartwatches and wearables can be ineffective and inaccurate. Smartwatches and wearables track your data, specifically your sleep patterns, through actigraphy, which is the act of collecting data through motion. But this method of data collection isn't applicable to all scenarios. For example, you could be sitting at your sofa watching, binging a Netflix show, your body is at rest and your mind isn't. Oftentimes, these solutions aren't being able to detect the difference. Additional previous solutions also include bedside sleep trackers and sleep tracking mattresses, which are tailored to your own sleep patterns. However, making you toss and turnless as you sleep doesn't necessarily lead to the better quality of sleep or the longer duration of your sleep. It just means that you stay still during your sleeping solution, which is simply identifying the problem but not exactly providing a validated solution. All in all, the data provided by all these solutions is extremely peripheral and cannot actually be applicable to provide a solution. The market I decided to commission my product into is the global sleep aid market, which is growing at a rapid rate. It is expected to reach about $162 billion by 2032. Key drivers alleviating the growth of this market include the growing sleep disorders, which come as a byproduct of addiction to social media platforms. Of course, scrolling on TikTok 3 a.m. can have more detrimental effects than you think. Then there's the innovation of wearables in AI in the first place. The data collected by wearables and AI have actually enhanced our understanding of sleep patterns, since it has opened the opportunity for us to collect data in the first place. We must utilize this industry to our benefit, to actually provide plausible solutions. Lastly, the need for personalized wellness trends has increased as a byproduct of consumerism. As social media and innovations in technology grow, many people are seeking personalized data specified to them, and my product can give you exactly this. However, despite this market growing at a rapid rate, there is still a huge gap that needs to be addressed. All of the previous solutions, previously stated, simply identify the problem of your sleep patterns, showing you that you have inconsistent sleep cycles, but fail to provide an actual solution, which is why I present to you Sleepwise, a customized sleep solution. Now, our value proposition currently contains of two products that work hand in hand with each other. First is the wearable. The wearable is what our consumer wears 24/7, and it tracks your sleep patterns as you sleep. This is in terms of light exposure, temperature, and sound. We then convert all X conditions in which you are in a deep state of sleep and actually implement it into a sleep pod. You can then enter the sleep pod and sleep your sufficient rest, in which you have been, which we have created a tailored version of your well-suited sleep environment. At X conditions, we have monitored that the data from our wearable shows that you are in a deep state of sleep, and those same conditions will be implemented in our sleep pod. Now, common sleep triggers in which we will identify and monitor within our wearable include light exposure, for example, dim light versus dark light, temperature and humidity, sleeping in a cold environment versus a hot environment, and sound and silence. Some people prefer white noise, while other people prefer no noise. Our positioning. In turn, we are actually targeting the audience of global trotting executives, so this isn't a product applicable to the general population. Global trotting executives that frequently require traveling. Since this is a luxury product, it's priced at a premium value, and our service points in which we sell our product are airports, hotels, and corporate events, such as Davos, where a bunch of senior executives come up to meet together, and it is crucial that they get enough rest to actually perform to the best of their ability. To really implement my product in a hypothetical situation, I have provided you a simple simulation. Now, in the simulation, the global trotting executive, Alex, is currently at his connection flight at Singapore. He has about 6 hours before he needs to board his next flight to China and actually attend his corporate event. And that's where our sleep pod comes in. To ensure he gets vital rest, he enters one of our sleep pods, and in this scenario, he has been wearing our wearable for about 2 months. In these 2 months, we've been able to accurately identify what his trigger is. Now, everyone in this room has their own unique trigger the moment the brain switches off. At what conditions does your brain do this so that you can sleep? That's what our wearable aims to track. We have identified that his muscles were most relaxed and his heart rate was most steady at X conditions. Then these X conditions will actually be implemented in our sleep pod, where he will have a sufficient 6 hours of rest, or how many hours he wants to sleep for, before boarding his flight to China. Now, our wearable is a subscription-based product that is charged monthly, and of course, our sleep pod is a pay-per-use product, which is charged by the hourly. Essentially, you are buying sleep. Thank you.
I actually have a request and a question. Request is, when can I get one? Okay. So, jokes apart, I still didn't get how does the pod induce the sleep or create the conditions for sleep? I didn't quite get that. Can you explain a little bit?
Yes, of course. So our wearable has sensors detecting the type of environment it is, and our ultimate goal is to provide the most possible sleeping conditions in which you have the best sleep. So we don't have 100% guarantee that you do sleep. However, when you enter our pods, you do have the intention of sleeping. So when we theoretically backed up with data, we have the best suited factors that will make you sleep. And with the intent of you sleeping, it is extremely likely that you will fall asleep in our sleep pod.
Okay, follow-up question on that. So if you don't wear a ring or a ring or something like that to collect data, this one requires, from the looks of it, trended data that you collect, and you need to give it to your company that provides these parts for them to figure out what is their optimal sleeping condition, right? So first question is, only a subset of users can use this as long as they have trended data from a Oura ring. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, so are you going to sell the Oura ring subscription to the user before they subscribe to your plan?
Well, our ring is a subscription, so they will that's what they're paying for. The data is only for us. They don't see the data.
Okay, so you collecting the ring is the subscription.
Yes.
Yeah, then the data that is trended is available in Singapore or wherever you're transiting through in your part.
Well, the data is just only for us, and the sleep pod, the data can be transferred to any sleep pod, and our sleep pods are all over the world.
So you're not selling sleep pods, okay? You're just transferring the data.
Yeah, no, we're not selling our sleep pods. The sleep pod is like a service that comes with the.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, I used to run around a lot, I still do. There was a time when I was broke and I didn't have enough money to stay in hotels because we put that money back into paying off our employees or keep the payroll going. And out of desperation, I searched. When I get stuck in an airport in the middle of the night, which happened many, many times in the early days, I can't afford an expensive hotel near the airport. I cannot afford to, I don't want to go to a cheap hotel and sleep for 4 hours and come back in the airport. And I discovered a beautiful website called sleepinginairports.net for desperate people like me. And you won't believe the number of people who use that website. It's still on. And there's tons of globe-trotting execs, as you mentioned, who are not wanting to step out for 4 hours or 5 hours, international, domestic, whatever. And they all desperately search. So sleepinginairports.net, if you're stuck in Vegas airport, it tells you if you go to gate number 3 or terminal number whatever, there's a Starbucks there and there's a couch. Or it tells you there's a massage chair in Houston lobby, K3, whatever. If you put up a little ad there or do a survey there, if you can get that website to accommodate a survey, I'm sure you'll get some fantastic user stats. People saying what I'm stuck with. You won't believe the number of people who use that website on a daily basis. I'm wondering if you did any such tests to get a feel as to what are execs saying if I were to offer them something like this.
So, ironically, there is something already like this product in Japan, but it's like it's just a startup. It's not something that's, grown and developed into, which is why I chose this topic because, I don't get enough sleep. But then again, I'm just a high schooler, so I wanted to kind of take it to a deeper level. So I've already examined the how much it's developed in Japan, and I know there's a lot of temporary solutions. As you mentioned, the website. Of course, yes, there are couches at or airport lounges, but then again, that's a temporary solution. And as I mentioned before, all that addition, when you repetitively sleep in such inconsistent environments, it can in turn lead to sleep deprivation. So my product is kind of an evolution of what's already happened. So it isn't, like I said, applicable to the general population. It's really only targeted towards executives. But yeah.
Understand. Yeah, I mean, if you want to get a test of feedback from
No, yeah, I'll definitely look into that.
those are some options, and there's other options as well. But getting a feel of what are they looking for? Would they be open to sharing their data, sleep data? There's a whole lot of other privacy issues and whatnot. But there are people who are trying out this already with execs, even general public, doing tests, because sleep test itself is expensive. If I were to do a sleep test, the insurance is not going to give me any money on that, right? It's a very expensive, laborious, time-consuming test. So if you're offering something that's quicker, buy something off, better than the smartwatches and all those devices that we saw, you have a story that you should build on. And it's not just you, for anyone who's pitching something, be brave enough to say, I have the guts to build a business out of this. You don't have to be shy about it. And if you're young, it's okay. You still should do it. You should go out and fail, it's okay. But try that. But good luck. I like your pitch. And thank you.
Thank you.
If we're out of time, I'll do a quick one. So look, I think you know from your research that now, today, sleep is considered one of the biggest topics in the industry because, lack of sleep obviously is lack of productivity, brain health, other performance issues, and a lot of studies out there are saying sleep is number one in terms of, so it's a huge topic. I know earlier you said 162 billion. I would argue that the full impact is even bigger than that when you factor in all of that. So my question for you with the pod is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that the pod tries to simulate the ideal environment
Yes.
for you to get the optimal sleep.
Yes.
But as you probably know from your research, one aspect is environment, the other aspect may be, behavioral things that you are doing leading up to the time of sleep. Whenever you eat, exercise, all of that. How does your pod, kind of sort of balance for those items?
So our pod, like I said, is like a service. So technically, it doesn't really account for the behavioral aspect. But as I mentioned, before, when our customers enter our pod, they have the intention of sleeping. So technically, any other behavior, like you said, if they haven't eaten well, it kind of, I guess, gets undermined by the desire for them to sleep. So if they have the intention to sleep, and with the data, we've proven that they sleep well under X conditions. It should be proven that they, the behavioral, aspect of sleep won't exactly be such a concerning factor.
I once tried a sleeping pod in Mumbai with airport because I was only 3-4 hours before the flight. But unfortunately, the moment I started sleeping, first the attendant came with water. And then there are people around, they start talking. I said, didn't realize it was a sleeping pod. So I hope you also get enhancement to sit there now. And something like the sleeping pod. Good one. Next I have Sunidhi Varghese. Her ID is 2505.
Hi everyone, good morning. How's everyone doing today on this lovely Saturday? So I'm going to be starting off with a patient case that I saw. So there was this 60-year-old man, okay, and he, around 2010, he started to develop this headache, but it's not like a regular headache. It was a headache that almost felt like an electric shock. and it was around his like temporal lobes, like around his temples. So since it's around his temples, he initially thought that it was related to his jaw or his like teeth, but that wasn't the case. So he went to the doctor, and the doctor diagnosed him with his condition, and they prescribed him with medications. Now, these medications, they did help. They did help temporarily relieve his pain, but it didn't solve his issue. So then he went back, and this time, also his condition was actually a lot worse than what he previously started out with, and they considered surgery. But due to his current health status and the fact that he had diabetes, he had an increased risk of cardiovascular complications in the OR, which caused him to have surgery as not an option. So they just increased his dosages for his medications. Now, unfortunately, he passed away in 2016 or 17 due to liver disease. Now, what condition exactly am I talking about here? Well, my name is Sunidhi Varghese, and today I'm going to be talking about trigeminal neuralgia. So what exactly is trigeminal neuralgia, you might ask? Well, trigeminal neuralgia it's a chronic pain condition affecting the trigeminal nerve of the face. And now I will also explain the anatomy of what the trigeminal nerve is. So if you see this yellow nerve over here, there's essentially 3 branches of the trigeminal nerve. There's the ophthalmic nerve, which controls sensations in the forehead, the eye area, your eyebrows, etc. You have the maxillary nerve, which controls the sensations in your cheeks, your upper lip, and your nose. And then you have the mandibular nerve, which controls motor movements, such as chewing and talking. And it also controls sensations in your lower lip and overall just the lower part of your face. So when you have trigeminal neuralgia, essentially parts of this nerve will essentially be abnormal, or it won't be working correctly. And you can experience pain in the upper or lower part of your jaw, your cheek, your lip, your eye, or your forehead. And sometimes you can get intervals of this pain, with the intervals lasting between a few seconds all the way to up to 2 minutes. And this condition can become more frequent and more severe if it's left untreated. Now we might ask, why am I creating a solution to this? There's already medications, there's already surgeries. Why am I putting so much emphasis on a solution right now? Well, medications such as carbamazepine, it can cause dizziness, drowsiness, and liver issues. And because in general, medications, they can help. They can genuinely help with treating the pain. But medications, they go all throughout the body. They affect every single organ system in the body. So it's not fail-proof. And then with surgeries, such as the microvascular decompression, what it essentially does is there's essentially the reason why trigeminal neuralgia occurs is because the blood vessel is essentially compressed. So you're getting all this pressure. So they would put a sponge, and it would just kind of put it in between the trigeminal nerve and that blood vessel that's compressed just to relieve pain. But then the nerve is still abnormal. You're not really solving the issue that is there. And additionally, I mentioned this earlier with that patient case in the beginning, it can't be performed on every single case due to the conditions that the patient might have. So this is going to be my solution. I'm going to be using stem cell therapy. Now, let me explain what exactly a stem cell is, because I'm sure some of you guys may not exactly know. Well, if you look at the specialized somatic or body cell, in a regular cell, every single cell, by the way, it has all of our 46 chromosomes. So basically, in a regular somatic cell, parts of the genes will be switched off, and only one part of the gene will be expressed, and in this case, it's a neuron cell. But then in stem cells, a stem cell can become any part of the entire human body. So that's kind of the beauty of stem cell therapy. So I'm going to be using a patch, and this patch, it's like non-invasive because you don't have to cut open the patient. You don't have to do anything surgical. There's no medications that are required for the solution. All you have to do is you have to go through the nasal cavity, and then inside the nasal cavity, you would go to the soft tissue. Now, why exactly the soft tissue, you may ask? Well, the soft tissue contains a huge amount of blood supply, which is crucial for the transportation of what's inside the patch, which, by the way, is exosomes and cytokines, which I'll explain later. But basically, because of the increased blood supply, it's able to easily get transported to the nerve that is abnormal. So this is what I would need to achieve this solution. I would need a biodegradable patch material, which essentially is like the base of the patch. So an example of this would be hydrogel. I'd obviously need stem cell-derived exosomes and anti-inflammatory cytokines. And then I would need lab access for patch testing and formulation because, again, like any type of medical tool, you need to test it in a lab just to make sure it works. And then I'd also need a 3D nasal model because actually this one side note here, this is actually not this is not a new treatment. This has been something that is experimental. However, it's never been actually stimulated on a real person. So by using a 3D nasal model, you can kind of see how you would insert it in the patient and how it would look like inside. And these are the costs of all the different materials that I would need. And going back to my case, I just want you guys to think about what could have happened if this patient had received my solution. My patient, or not my patient, but this patient, he had a wife and kids and he left them. If he had received this treatment, he would probably be here today. And additionally, another thing to mention here is that trigeminal neuralgia, it can also be caused by genetic predispositions. People shouldn't have to suffer just because they inherited something from their parents. I believe that every single person in this world deserves a second chance. Thank you.
Good presentation. Question is, the patch goes in, that part I understand. Does it have to be taken out?
I haven't really thought of that yet, but I think with further research, I would definitely look more into that.
So, follow up on that one is, can this be solved with a spray like talked about before, instead of inserting something up there with all the cells in there? I'm not a doctor, so I'm just asking this question.
I mean, with the spray, the only concern I have is that with the spray, you have to be very precise in where you're putting it. But the patch, you can just easily put it in that soft tissue, and it would easily be distributed throughout that area, if that makes sense.
So you have not really developed the patch yet. You need to, right? There's no prototype or anything done, right?
Yeah, I haven't actually created. This is just based on my own research that is available. Yeah.
I'm curious, you talked about this patient case. Was that your inspiration for kind of looking at this as your idea to go deeper on?
Actually, this mysterious patient is actually my grandfather. So he actually passed away when I was around 6 or 7, and obviously at that age, I was thinking of unicorns and rainbows. I never really thought of why he died, but as I got older and as I got more interested in the medical field, I really wanted to know the cause of his death. So I digged a little deeper into it, and I just really wish that there was a way that he could have received permanent treatment, because with the surgeries and medication, they help with the issue, but it's not a permanent solution. So I wanted to create a permanent solution that could potentially save the lives of people with this condition.
And how widespread is this issue?
They're actually like trigeminal neuralgia. It's not a very common case. Like it's quite rare, but like despite that, I feel like it can not only help with trigeminal neuralgia. I feel like for like any case like that like requires like permanent damage. Like for example, strokes. Like in strokes, how like some of the brain cells die. I feel like with this patch, it can be like as inspiration to like help regenerate some of those damaged brain cells, if that makes sense. Thank you.
Have you read a book called Phantoms in the Brain? Will I know Ramachandran? There's some bit being covered about this, but I'm not an expert on that topic, but just as a reference for you. But there was a mention of that 3D printed nasal. Was that an additional component that you mentioned?
Yeah, I wanted to do the 3D nasal, the nasal model, just to like model like how that patch like goes in the nasal cavity, if that makes sense. But like, yeah, I haven't really looked into that.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Is there any other additional questions?
Next we have Kashinadh Kadavil. His ID is 2506.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I got it. Good afternoon. I'm Kadavil. I'm a sophomore at Prosper High School, and today I'll be introducing Pick a Bag or Reusable Bag rental system. Imagine yourself traveling to a new country, expecting to see a beautiful shore and blue water, but instead you're greeted with plastic bags tangled with seaweeds on the seashore and in the water. Plastic pollution is one of the biggest problems behind greenhouse emissions, and it also contributes to greenhouse emissions. They're made to make our lives easier, but 5 trillion bags are used annually, and less than 10% of them are recycled. In fact, a single plastic bag takes up to 500 years to decompose. Most plastics end up in landfills, oceans, or in food, and still exist somewhere on Earth. Also, studies show that an average person consumes a credit card worth of plastic annually. There are existing solutions to this, but plastic bags and fees don't have a big enough effect on people, as the fees are too low for people to care about them, and the bans just don't have a big enough effect on people. People also neglect the use of reusable bags, as they don't care enough to go back in their cars to pick up their reusable bags to use in the stores. We need a solution that is easier and more convenient than the current solutions we have. That's why I introduced Pick a Bag. Pick a Bag is a vending machine that dispenses reusable cloth bags, where you borrow a bag instead of buying one. You return it once used and let others reuse the bag. Here's how it goes. You walk to the grocery store, but you forgot your reusable bag, and you don't want to use a plastic bag. So you walk up to a vending machine and scan the QR code or type in your number. Then you take a reusable cloth bag and use it as needed for up to a week. Once you're done, you can either return it or receive fines or buy it outright. Why is this beneficial? It's convenient for shoppers to use. In fact, I have a personal story about this from my mother. She was in a city that banned plastic bags, and she went out to buy groceries, but she wasn't able to because she didn't have a cloth bag and there were none to buy. But if Pick a Bag was there, she could have bought groceries and came back home instead of coming back home empty-handed. It also reduces plastic put out into the world, especially produce bags, because they're really small and people don't think about the effect that it has on the world, as we use a new produce bag for every single produce we pick up. But this saves money for both shoppers and stores, since shoppers now pay small fees for plastic bags, as people are trying to stores are trying to stop using plastic bags, and stores spend annually $4 billion on plastic bags in the US alone. It also decreases the carbon footprint put out into the world. Now you might be asking, why not paper bags? Well, paper bags do take lower times to decompose. They take more energy and water to produce than plastic bags. They also affect deforestation. as we need trees to make paper, and if you don't have the paper to make paper bags, we can't make paper bags. They're also not as durable as plastic bags and does not offset the environmental cost as people don't use it enough to override what we put in to make it. How do we generate profit? We expect most of the profit to come from, most of the income to come from government grants that support the cause as it's a growing cause that needs a solution to it, and late fees to encourage bag returns, since most people are probably going to forget, as we do forget things because we're humans, and partnerships with stores and host vending machines. We also expect some revenue from ads on the vending machines to generate ad revenue, as people are trying to advertise their companies and whatever. The future of the project. We expect to scale to malls, retail stores, and fast food chains. We're going to encourage major retailers to adopt the systems as they contribute to it too. Like, think about this. If you're going to Nike, you're going to have to get a plastic bag to take out your clothes after you buy them, right? We're also going to promote reusability over disposability as plastic pollution is mostly because of disposability and disposal, because of disposing plastic bags. Why pick a bag matters? Plastic pollution is an urgent global matter for greenhouse emissions. If you don't stop plastic pollution, we're probably going to see a lot of animals die in the future, and we're probably going to have plastic inside of us. It also helps to solve one of the major contributors to climate change, plastic pollution. And Pick a Bag makes sustainable shopping easy. It's eco-friendly, scalable, and financially sustainable. Now, before I end it off, I would like to state a quote by Robert Swan. The greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. Thank you. Some questions?
Very important topic. Is your product idea then this dispensing machine that has the cloth bags for people to be able to borrow? That's the main, right?
Yep.
Have you thought about, in a good scenario where a lot of people say, hey, I want to do this, you would have to replenish, like, some thought into how many bags you'd have to have this unit hold.
Yeah.
You know, the more the sort of the tactical components of like, you know, having enough supply to be able to replenish it on an ongoing basis, because some people may not return it in a timely manner and things like that.
Yeah, so we're going to take the fees, right? Fees, and then create more bags. And we're going to have, like, so we're gonna like put a poll on how many people, a counter on how many people walk in and out of the store, see the average, like, customers at the store. You're going to, like, add an increased amount of bags at that store to make sure people always have bags to use.
Yeah. And then have you given some thought to the manufacturing cost of these bags and how you would do that?
I haven't, but we're probably going to outsource because that's the easiest way, create now local goods.
A follow-up question to that. Obviously, your brand of bags can be bought, returned, and all this kind of stuff. But how do you prevent from counterfeit bags coming into the market and completely obliterating you? Because they can take the same approach to the market.
Like other brands?
Yeah, like it's a substitutable product. What is your unique protection? Do the retailers say you can only use your bag as opposed to some outside bag? I'm just asking you to think through the business model.
That's a good question. Probably gonna have better quality than the other brands, because people always seek for quality or quantity and like lower prices. So we're gonna offer it at a low price but high quality to increase our customers.
So, just to be clear, I use the bag for X number of days and I can go back and put it to your machine, right? How do you ensure that I'm not returning a torn bag or a bag that is not of quality that another person can use?
We actually have a tracker on the bag to make sure that we get the same backpack. We're gonna have a tag on it, like those old NFTs and stuff people used to have on bags and like jackets to make sure they're special. We have one of those to make sure when we scan it in, the same one. And if it's not, we're gonna like how to find that person.
No, it is not torn or a damaged bag.
No, I know, a different bag, yeah.
Yeah.
We have a tag on it to make sure it's the same bag. If it's not, it's going to find it.
No, my question is, so I use it,
Yeah.
and by mistake, I tear the bag somehow, okay, or it gets damaged. So how do you ensure that once you get it back in the machine, it doesn't dispense it to the next person because it's a damaged one?
Oh, we're gonna keep it in a separate place because we're gonna clean it.
Oh,
obviously,
okay,
before,
gotcha.
but yeah.
Not on the same machine.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else?
And is there a plan that you have to start? Everything starts small, right?
Yeah.
Is there a plan in your mind? I've got to put this idea into action. You got to start something. Is there something that you're working on?
No.
Just curious.
I honestly want to know. Like after starting researching about this, I honestly want to know. Yeah, you know those machines that buy phones at Walmart and stuff.
Yeah.
You could like put cloth bags inside them and then dispense it out. People want it.
So you're thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it now.
Good. Okay.
Thank you, Kashinadh. I think if your product doesn't come out.
My name is Anika Sumeet. I go to Independence High School and I'm a junior. Before we get started, I would like to ask a rather simple question. If you cannot see something, how can you change it? This is the reality of millions of students. Many people often face this problem when they're thinking of, oh, okay, I see the solution, I see this problem, but how can I fix it? Many students across the world leave a carbon footprint without even realizing. The thought does not even cross their mind. And because of this, carbon footprints have become an increasingly growing problem. Carbon emissions are invisible, they're abstract, and because of that, our generation, the most climate-conscious generation in history, is flying blind. Today, I offer a solution to this problem with the implementation of just one app that goes by the name Carbon Quest. Now, let me begin by proposing my solution. Now, Carbon Quest can potentially serve as the first app that turns carbon tracking into a real-time, school-wide competition. In this app, both students and teachers can track their daily actions, which would include walking or biking to school, reducing cafeteria waste, and they can immediately see how those actions shrink their carbon footprint overall. Moreover, the school's carbon scores update live on the app, which kind of builds this competitive edge as other schools and other classrooms and students in the school can just see, okay, you know what, I gotta get my competition going, this other school has a higher score than me, let's get this show on the road. So by making a visible daily change, Carbon Quest builds habits that last for a life, not just for a semester, which is very important in this day and age because we see a lot of these apps that try to speak to the youth and really enforce these habits in their lives, but they don't really end up being sustainable, which is what sets Carbon Quest apart, just because we are a long-term app that really builds habits for the rest of students' lives. So how exactly will this app work? Well, for each week, each school gets 3 defined challenges. For example, bike or walk to school at least twice a week, reduce cafeteria waste by 20%, and lastly, reduce classroom electricity use by unplugging devices at night. After completing these challenges, the students can log it into the app with just one tap on a phone. No paperwork, no hassle. Now, live broadcasting is also able to update the school's carbon footprint score in real time, and all of this does is just show students how their efforts are actively contributing to a larger cause by shrinking carbon emissions instantly. Now, lastly, blockchain technology can be used to secure all these actions because, all these students are obviously logging these actions in an app, but where do they go? Blockchain comes in with that. By providing a secure and stable data collection area where nothing gets tampered with, schools are just being able to be more comfortable with even enforcing this app and running the idea of taking down such a powerful, pressing issue in our world by using blockchain and all these technological elements. So just to put this in context, for example, take a student who rides a bike instead of drives. They can automatically log that in their app and see their carbon savings instantly, which will help push their school higher on this app's leaderboard.
So now that you guys know a lot about what Carbon Quest is, how it helps students, I want to talk a little bit about why it's different from the rest. So to answer that question about why Carbon Quest is really different, first, simplicity. There is no other platform that makes complex carbon data something easy and engageable with students. A lot of the time you see this data presented in very complex graphs or some really large scholarly articles, but turning this into an interactive app like any other fun thing that a kid engages with really makes this app stand out by making it simple overall. And second, engagement. I kind of got into this, but Carbon Quest is just different because it is able to turn such a complex topic like this into something that's more engaging than Clash of Clans or any other game you see students playing on the get-go. This is just because our app includes things like a scoreboard, a leaderboard, player of the week, trophies. All of these things engage kids and really make them want to tackle this problem rather than feeling like they have to. And third, trust. I mentioned this before, but the use of blockchain technology really does just create and reinforce trust in ensuring that this product goes out and actually works, just because all this data that's being taken in cannot be tampered with the use of blockchain. The minute you use this technology, you're ensuring that everything that you're collecting stays in one spot and is verified and factual. And lastly, scale. Carbon Quest can expand from just being used at local schools to eventually statewide competitions and hopefully even on the global scale, just because of the fact that it is an app. It can be on a phone. It's not something that you need to hold. Therefore, it does have that advantage of scale. All right, moving on to why Carbon Quest wins. So sorry, the vision. I repeated that slide, but okay, moving on to the vision, I just want to make it clear that this is not just about tracking numbers. It's about building a movement. This is one of the main things that define this app, because I think one of the main things that we are working to imagine is just millions of students racing to get their carbon footprint down, not because they have to, but because they want to. That is our vision. We want students to want to do things, not feel like they're forced or nudged into it, because Carbon Quest doesn't just teach sustainability, it builds a generation that leads it. Now, moving on to the opportunity for investors. Now, we know that this market is massive. I know a lot of you guys sitting in here, we have high schoolers, working professionals. No matter what it is, we've been exposed to the market and how vast it is. In fact, there's 130,000 schools in the US and millions more students worldwide. And given that fact, the need for climate education tools and climate education in general is growing exponentially. Thankfully, this is where Carbon Quest comes in. It's an app that is built for this moment, with revenue streams from school licenses, district partnerships, and corporate sponsors. More importantly, Carbon Quest creates a lasting impact. Just because this is focusing on a long-term goal and a long-term conflict, the app stays around for a long time and will keep serving the population to ultimately mitigate this. Thank you. Are there any questions?
I like the fact that you're pitching with the fact that there's investors and I want this to become a viable business. That's your goal. One suggestion would be, I'm really impressed with what you just said here on the slide especially. Quantify with some numbers based on research to provide those sources and whatnot. But I want to understand, in your age group, how serious are students in that age group worrying actually about carbon footprint? And even you have the most enticing game there and rewards, what's the true, what keeps that stickiness among students? Any thoughts on that?
Yes, definitely. I think you said this at the beginning of your question, or is this a pressing issue? I think I speak for the students in this room. From elementary, we've been subject to initiatives like plant a tree, make a garden at school, join the gardening club. These are all just small things that schools have been doing to sort of combat carbon emissions, help our climate. And so this has been an undercurrent for a long time. And while it is not a talked about problem in our generation, that's what I'm targeting. I want it to be, just because of the fact that it has always been an undercurrent. It has been a problem for centuries. And so by creating an app that sort of makes it engaging and kind of even more engaging than any other game that you don't even need to use your brain for, that's what creates that sort of stickiness. It makes it stick just because this is an app that can mitigate this problem with just logging, just logging your activities, just logging how you're doing this and how you're doing that. And so all in all, I think it's just gonna stick because this is an ongoing problem. There is an app that can stay and target this problem for as long as it occurs. And yeah, it just serves to raise awareness about this amongst the student body.
So, looks like you're thinking around go-to-market as to get this percolated through the ISDs and schools, etc. Right? Do you have any thoughts of going straight to the kids and motivating them to download their app and then start to use it?
I think I would go with moving towards the FISD or like districts just because school is an environment where you are taught habits, you are taught morals, and incorporating this in such a conducive environment of new education, new learning, new habits being formed from a young age, I think that'll really beautifully work it into how you're gonna live your life in the future, and it'll just kind of get these kids in a habit of, okay, let me play this game because I like it, and also the fact that it will fix a problem that I care about and that I think that we should find an end to soon. Just because I think going directly through the kids will have a little less of an impact.
What is the target age? Are you only targeting high school or even beyond?
I think for this app, I definitely only want to implement this in schooling, K-12, like be it all grades. But obviously the impact that it will have has no bounds, no age restrictions, nothing. But as for where I'm going to enforce this app, I would aim to do it in high schools, like elementaries, preschools, all of that.
Yeah, I was thinking of potentially colleges because even now those students are driving, they're doing more things.
Just education.
Right, so that now, engagement is, you mentioned that, right? Engagement is something that all B2C apps deal with. And, what you find in a lot of cases is people will use it initially because it's exciting, it's fun, but after a while that engagement drops off, right? And so any ideas at this stage in terms of how do you keep, everyone agrees the impact is huge, it's important, but taking the time to actually enter your activities in an app, etc., because everyone leads busy lives, unless it's a what's in it for me, or like why is it important, be it content, be it other things. Have you thought about that?
I have. I think I completely agree. It is kind of hard to ensure, which is why I'm moving through schools. I would want to move through schools, just because we've all had to do things we don't want to necessarily do at school. But looking back now, as a junior in high school, I still do the things that I was taught against my will in elementary, and so that's kind of why I want to incorporate this in. Because even if kids think, okay, this is boring, I'm too old for this, it's still going to be something that's moving through schools. It will honestly be like an assignment. Just because this is an issue in our society that needs to be fixed, that will always be a problem as long as it exists. And so, yeah, I think even if kids don't want to do it, it will still be there just because it's kind of embedded in curriculum in schools, what I hope it to be.
So, in good presentation, one thing I liked about what you said, it's a movement. It's not something that caught my attention. So, building on Zinat's question itself, if you can make it easy for the student to enter this data, pre-populated stuff that you can daily, you don't have to enter every day.
Yeah.
It's 90% filled out, you just make the changes. That will make the stickiness much better.
Definitely, I completely agree. I know I have a lot of apps that do that for me and I love them, so yes.
Thank you, Anika. I'm just wondering, with all the study materials and homeworks going online, students don't cite carbon footprint as an issue as not doing homeworks. Sorry, my Indian parents don't just kidding. Next, I have Anirudh Hariharan. His ID is 2508. I think we had a demo brochure. Yeah, I'll just keep it ready.
Hello all, how are you doing today? Okay, I am Anirudh Hariharan. I'm a 9th grader at Centennial High School in FISD, and today I'll be focusing on something I think a lot of people in this room have experience with, enterprise asset protection. So, I did this using Amazon Q, a new generative AI assistant developed by AWS, Amazon Web Services, and it uses a master document and several sources given to it by system admins and other employees in different departments of a company, such as employee documents from HR, device inventory from IT, and legal documents from the legal department. So what we do is the system administrator for the enterprise. In our example, I'm giving an example company called Any Company Incorporated. It uses my Amazon Q chatbot to query the non-compliant devices and take action as an IT, web protection, and OS, the development issues. And analyze an Excel document with the device inventory, the OS for each device and each department it belongs to give the system administrator information. And based on a query response, the system admin can reach out to the device owners for immediate actions or implement them by itself. And it indexes the master inventory file upon every change and can update it based on a command issued by the system administrator. So these are some pictures that I took. The one on the top left corner is the home screen. As you can see, it's sort of like ChatGPT in the fact that it gives us a greeting and we can query it. And once we greet it, like I said, hi Q, it showed us what sources it's using for our queries, and it asked us what we would like to do with it. And in this example image, I asked about how many non-compliant Windows devices there are, aka devices that use the operating system Windows. And it listed 3 non-compliant Windows devices and stated a source of our device inventory Excel document. In addition, this can be taken even further with integration with other cybersecurity technologies such as AWS Lambda, AWS Security Lake, and other applications such as Splunk to further reinforce the company's OS during something like a breach, and can be used to sift through lots of documents that are important to a company, such as during maybe a big case for the company where they're trying to get the upper hand. Amazon Q can sift through legal documents and find loopholes that would benefit the company and the employees inside. And I would like to show a demo. I sign into my AWS account as a root user so I can have all the privileges. But if you sign in as a different user from a department, it sets boundaries so that you can only view what's in your department and you can't get access to other people's. For example, the department user cannot have access to IT files through confidentiality. So, for example, I can ask it to cite the sources used for our queries. It takes some time to load, and then it gives us a developed response based on what we asked. See, it provides the name of the file, the type of sheet it is, and what it contains. And we can ask follow-up questions, not only to analyze the file, but what to do with that information. as we have not configured it yet, it won't give access. But as it develops, since this is just a prototype, we can make protocols that it can do by itself independently of the system administrator. During something such as an enterprise, a daily security modification. And it provides information very quickly. And so what separates it from an AI such as ChatGPT is that it's tailored to our company and it's not accessible by people outside of our company, keeping the confidentiality of the enterprise and the people in it, while also being useful to those with 9-to-5 jobs and those that work in the company for very specific roles. And it can make their lives easier by letting them focus on more advanced tasks while it completes mundane tasks, such as keeping the systems up to date. Thank you for listening. Are there any questions you have for me?
I have a comment, not just you, but all of these students who spoke here. I'm so happy I'm not a school student now. I would have been so ashamed of myself.
So, why only devices in the asset inventory? Why can't it be applications?
Well, as of right now, I had only 7 days to create this chatbot, so that I can show it to you judges. But if I have a little more time, I can keep on going. I can keep on going, make changes to the device inventory, and implement protocols.
Yeah, give me a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with these guys. I feel like we have a very bright future ahead of us as children. What, can I ask you, Anirudh, like how did you come up with this problem? Like what prompted you to say, this is a problem that really needs to be solved?
Well, I actually gained inspiration from this from both my mom and dad. They're very, very hard workers in the company, and I value the work they put in every day to get money for us and education. Anyway, I valued their hard work, and I wanted to make sure their lives would be easier so that they didn't have to do such mundane tasks as these. I want them to be able to focus on more advanced tasks so that they can actually help their company and make their mark on the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajai. Maybe you should have added this demo even during the
Study buddy. So basically, nowadays in high school, in homework and studying in particular, we face a lot of problems. And just the two main ones I'll highlight here are the work overload, because me, in my school, I have 8 classes. Each of those 8 classes, especially next year as I'm taking a lot of APs, they give a lot of homework, and it's a struggle to keep up with all of that. And there's also a lot of distractions. So like sometimes you can go on your phone, say you're taking a 10-minute break, go on TikTok or Instagram or something. Before you know it, 2 hours is up, and you have 30 minutes left to create your assignment or whatever. So as per a Stanford study, 56% of students struggle with homework and consider it a major cause of sleep deprivation and stress. And over 70 to 80% of students think stress is affecting their daily lives from homework. And so this is our solution, Study Blade. So it makes you a personalized schedule based off of all your work for the day, which includes if you have any extracurriculars like maybe soccer practice, and then if you have a test to study for, if you have a homework assignment to do, it'll take all of that into account and basically plug it into an AI API and make a personalized schedule for you. And it gives you time breaks too, so that it prevents exhaust, because you can be studying for a really long time, get bored, maybe fall asleep. With these breaks, it'll send you notifications of when to take a break and then when that break is up and when you should get back to studying, and it'll also send you notifications if you're behind schedule or falling behind in any of your work like that. It blocks distraction in the way that when you go into the app, when you start studying, when you click the button for it, I'll show you guys later, it'll lock all your distracting apps like maybe games, social media, stuff like that. If the user permits that, we can lock all of them, and it'll basically help them study and stay focused. And it's easy to use with our user-friendly UI and our simple design. So let's take a look at the UI real quick. Here in the UI, on the home screen, this is a thing right here. And so basically, there's a small box with your assignments. Basically, if the user gives us our login, we can go into their home access center or their whatever school platform they use, sync all of their assignments and due dates, and we can basically know what their work already is, so they don't have to put it in for us. And then, but if they do have any extra work like extracurriculars, maybe you're making a presentation for this think tank, then you can put that in. If you have soccer practice from 6 to 8, you can put that in that box, and it'll add that to your schedule as well. And then the large box here, this displays the schedule at the top. And then also the notifications that I talked about earlier, they help you when you start working, when you end working, when you take breaks. It'll help you make notifications and do all that stuff. And so basically this is the way the home screen is going to be arranged. And once you click that start button on the schedule practice right there, then this schedule will be full screen, and you'll be able to see that the entire time. And so basically our app is different from others in the way that most school helper apps right now, they're just AIs. They do it for you. You don't really learn anything from that. Ours, you're both learning the material, and at the same time, you're also staying effective in the way that you're not wasting any time. This is going to help with sleep deprivation. This is going to help with stress. This is going to help with overall performance in school. And yeah. And these are my citations.
Do you have a prototype already app available for people to use?
I'm working on it right now for to make the app, but I don't have it like working yet. But I'm doing it right now.
Thank you.
How do you plan to go to market with the app? I mean, would it be on the iOS, Android platforms that people need to individually go and download it, or you will look at some channel to go to market? So how do you think about it?
So the plan is just to put it on iOS App Store and the Play Store, and then make it cost something around like a pretty cheap price, something around $2 to generate revenue from that, and then I'll put ads on the app as well, and then make them, if they want to pay premium for no ads, that'll be another simple subscription, maybe like $3 or something like that, so that I can generate revenue from it.
Can you go back to that first slide if you don't mind? So the distractions you mentioned there is work overload and too many other distractions. Parents? I mean, today's parents, seriously.
Yeah.
It is a burden to handle, right, for a lot of students. Because I used to run a youth entrepreneurship program, and we used to isolate the students and ask them to open up, and ask the parents to stay off, and then they would open up. Because these are kids who wanted to become independent, build a business plan. They actually want to become it. And some of these students tell me horror stories about what goes on in their homes. I never speak up about it, but it was scary, the kind of stress they go through. Seriously. I felt bad when I heard that. But anyway, did you do a survey or research or get 10, 20 students to sign up for this or talk to them? Any such homework that you did?
Yeah, so the statistic I had, the 56%, that was based off of a Stanford study that was conducted back in 2021. My app isn't completely, so I can't do a survey on it. So
no, at least engaging students saying, you already talked about overloaded with homework and I'm asking about another homework. But students who said, yeah, if there's something that, where you have data points saying I've talked to 50 students, 10 students, 7 of them said I'd be happy to sign up for this. Some kind of brilliant feedback that you got from students by yourself. I know I saw the report about Stanford and all that, from Stanford, but did you do some homework like that?
no, I just did the research off the Stanford study. I didn't really go and do it because I didn't have that much time. It was only a week, so yeah.
This is obviously a key problem facing a lot of students today. I have children, so I completely agree. One of the things you talked about, like charging money and things like that, right? Kind of building off of Manoj's point, right? This is advice, like when you talk to your friends and peers about this, be mindful of whether people will pay for this. Because while some people may say I will, when it comes down to it, they'll be like, I can figure it out myself, I'm not going to pay it, even if it's $2, $3, $4. So I think the key is to engage the students. And the one thing I wanted to confirm with you is that, I think, at least in my mind, one of the differentiators I saw I wanted to ask you is that your app will actually have interactions with other apps so that they lock them out, right? Where like if I decide, hey, I want to scroll on TikTok, it will limit the amount of time. Did I hear you right?
Yeah.
You can do that. Okay. So the idea is that it's not just helping you with how to structure your homework, but it's actually going to put blockers on other things on your phone.
Yeah, like social media apps, games, all that, anything to distract you.
Yeah. Again, this is more a recommendation. I think that's fabulous, but sometimes a lot of people don't like the fact that you're limiting my access to other things. So perhaps this is an area you'll have to do a little bit more studying and see what are creative ways for me to achieve that outcome without feeling that people are going to say, I don't want this because now you're preventing me. So,
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaurav. I think distraction is a pretty dangerous thing. I recently saw a video where like somebody actually watches TikTok and it's so funny, and then they want to show it to their partner, and they realize the very first reason they picked the phone was to call 911 because they went into an accident. But, yeah, good one. Now we have the last participant of the day, Anika Ajai. The ID is 2510.
So before we start the time, I would just like to introduce myself. My name is Anika Ajai. I'm a freshman at Frisco High School. I'm super excited to share my idea with you all. Okay, so let's get started. So to start my presentation off, I would like to present a situation. In this situation, you have $100,000, and you can choose to either give all of this money to a doctor, or you could choose to give all of this money to an artist. How would you decide who deserves all of this money? It's an interesting thought, and it brings up an important question. Why are artists less valued today as a society? I want to pull up a statistic. From the Imperial Journal of Economics, they found that between 2006 and 2021, the relative earning of artists went from 0% to a negative 15%. This shows that as a society, we are devaluing art. This is a problem. Not only is this unfair, it's dangerous. Art is vital to our society because it connects us all when words fail. It's what differentiates humanity from other species. And when the people who create this beauty are struggling, they're not struggling because they have a lack of talent. They're struggling because they have a lack of visibility. Because artists are good at art, but artists are not good at marketing. Now let's flip the script and look at a different issue that's equally as important. Burnout. That's right, burnout. We look at people, for example, doctors, tech entrepreneurs, business people, college students. They all are breaking down because of prolonged exposure to stress. And this even isn't just a mental thing. The PMM finds that people who have a prolonged exposure to stress have symptoms such as chronic fatigue, anxiety disorders, and even a decrease in creativity. That's right, stress decreases creativity. And when creativity goes away, what we're left with is a lack of imagination, a lack of innovation, a lack of inspiration, and a lack of joy. So let's zoom out here and look at the bigger picture. We have artists who don't have a home for their art, and we have workplaces that are starving for innovation and creation. Enter my business, Art Connect. The crux of my business, or my idea, is that we want to help take local artists' art and move them to areas and workplaces that need this inspiration for creativity. So let's dive into more about how exactly does this work. Number one, we're going to build a database of artists through our website or app. And when we say artists, we don't mean just people who have a profession as an artist. We mean anyone who has a passion and wants to turn that passion into a project for the world to see. Next, we're going to build contracts with campuses and sites and facilities that need that inspiration for creation. I'm talking UTD, Baylor, Bank of America, these high-stress environments that need that creativity. What we're going to do is we're going to help place these art pieces into these areas, and this not only benefits the mental health of workers, but it also helps artists gain more exposure. So let's look into more of how exactly do we achieve this premise. Number one, we're going to have artists bring their art pieces to a local warehouse, and this number is going to be capped at 10 because we want variety pieces of art. We will then build collections or sets of these art pieces. So let's say one set has 25 art pieces from many different artists. What we're then going to do is we're going to set up these batches and we're going to move them to each of these facilities. So batch one goes to facility one. Now, the special thing about us is that every single month we'll go out and change these pieces, change the set for a new batch. And if our art piece is not sold within 6 months, what we'll do is we'll contact the artist and let them know, hey, your art piece isn't selling, do you want to switch it out for a new or maybe an art piece that you like more? So I want to answer this question, what is so special about our business? Why can't an entity or an organization themselves do this? There's two reasons. Number one is the fact that we go out every month and switch it. I want everyone in this audience, I bet you guys all have a piece of art in your home. But after 2, 3, 6 months, it kind of becomes non-existent, right? You don't really notice it or even see the benefits. And that's where the benefits of having art kind of go away and de-appreciate. Because people, when they see the same piece of art for more than 2 months, they'll start to forget it and they won't engage as much. That's why we want to move these pieces of art around. So people see new pieces of art every month. This is also beneficial for the artists because that means that their pieces of art aren't stagnant in one area and it's moving around from location to location, meaning that they get more exposure. And number two, we're trying to help artists, meaning that we're not going to take a giant chunk of their money. And the initial process is free for artists. So what if someone wants to buy an art piece? So this lovely lady right here is Jenny. And Jenny is a nurse at a hospital, and she is walking along the corridors, and she sees a piece of art that we have put there. She absolutely loves it, and she wants to take it home. What she will do is she'll scan the barcode, and it'll link her to our app. What we'll do is then we'll connect the artist to the customer, and through our app or website, they will complete the transaction, and we will take a small percentage of their money. So I want to move on to how do we actually profit. The first way we profit, and this is our main source of revenue, is by the contracts we set with corporations. This is like the Baylor, UTV, where they're paying us almost like a monthly subscription for our service of getting a collection of artists, taking their art pieces, building sets, putting them there, and then changing them every month. So that's a set price. That's our main source of revenue. And the second way we make money is through 4% of any sales made through our website. So let's say a customer like Jenny bought an art piece, and when they make the sale, we're going to be taking 4% of the profits, 2% from the artists and 2% from the customers. Because again, we're trying to help the artists make a living, and we don't want to take more money out of the starving population. And next, I want to highlight the impact. As you can see, this isn't just a business, it's an investment into our future. We believe that art pieces should not just be hung in galleries, but they should be there where people need them. I want you all to think back to my dilemma about the $100,000. On the doctor side, it's true, they save lives. But artists, they help people want to live life. Thank you. Any questions?
I have a question. This is really compelling in terms of the need for art. I'm sure you've thought about it. In the world of AI, where art can be generated very much, like the quality of that art is getting better. Because you're using companies, right, to be able to kind of display the art and take that. I get the value of human art because it's authentic, but from a profit standpoint, how do you address where companies might be like, hey, I can generate beautiful art through AI and still achieve the mental health wellness of my employees like we talked about?
So I think that this isn't just like also helping the company, the artists and the workers, it's also helping the company because they can say, hey, I'm supporting local artists, right? When we use AI generated art, it kind of produces that value of like, oh, I'm going out, I'm supporting these local artists, I'm supporting this local movement of selling art pieces or showing art pieces from local artists. That's why I think that a lot of businesses would be interested in this, not just because of the link of mental health and art and how it increases productivity in workers, but also the fact that they can advertise, hey, I'm a business that's supporting local artists, so you should come do business with us. So I hope that answers your question.
So I love the idea, by the way. Yeah. So I'm thinking about the practicality of it. So there are a lot of factors that go into what kind of arts need to be placed on a wall, what is the size of the wall, what is the color scheme of the wall, how does that get decided and who decides it?
Yeah, so this part of the process is when we make the contract, right? So when we make the contract, we'll do an evaluation in the area. We'll see, okay, where can we put the art? What types of art are most beneficial for that area? And this is created when we have the contract, and that's when we sign. And also, the price of the monthly subscription kind of varies on how many art pieces they need, how far away is it, so that it kind of varies based on each facility, if that makes sense.
Can I have you in my house?
Sure, I mean, it's more directed to companies, but yeah.
A great idea. I think corporations will look at it. But one thing that stands out in my role as a CEO, I need to also measure that I'm doing, other than helping the artists and making this, is my well-being of my employees improving because of this? As opposed to, are they less depressed? Are they, is there a way you can provide that as a service to this whole thing? But they're not going to do it by themselves, right? Just say, by the time I started this is what your stage like before and after kind of thing. Because that will be the measurement that you will sell more and more of this stuff.
Yeah, I think definitely, we can, before the process starts, we can evaluate, the mental health of the workers, and then after a few months, we can see how their, mentality is developed. And even, throughout just, my research, I found over 3,000 studies just based in the World Health Organization about how mental health is linked to art. So I think just using that data and also data we collect from, again,
and on top of it, you're making that minus 15%
yes.
go away from the artist.
Exactly, yes. And it's more exposure, which is great for them.
There's a common word used just before the word artist. I'm sure you know what that is. Starving artists.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And someone at your age group thinking about artists is commendable. Nobody thinks about that group. Nobody. Everyone wants to relish the art, enjoy it. But is that artist making a living? It doesn't even come to our mind, right? We don't even care. was thinking of our office space. Take the example in Cochin or Trigeminal. Yeah, nice big spacious offices and all that. There's a lot of local artists right there in Cochin. Fantastic artists. Anyone who's visited Cochin knows where to go find these artists. We have never ever thought up to this point, I'm sure I have not thought, I could get those artists to get their work up in our office, and maybe it's like a subscription plan. It cannot be expensive. And if you have an app like this, you can also reach out to more artists. I know there's apps like Artsy. I'm sure you know about Artsy. There's Kickdown for musicians, right? Local bands can patch up with pubs, perform, they get some money. So your idea is very altruistic, but how do you make that into a business is a different question altogether. But I really love the fact that someone young is thinking about starving artists. So kudos to you.
Thank you.